Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this important update for Dynamics 365. Today we have Deborah Ward joining us for a bit of a Q&A about some important information we want to share with you and some dates that are going to impact your solution. So thank you, Deborah, for joining us today.
Thank you, Tracy. It's my pleasure to join you today.
So today, Deborah, we're going to talk about this continuous release cycle, this new update that's coming for May 1, and also the new unified interface. So is it okay if I go ahead and ask you a few questions?
Certainly.
So what is this continuous release cycle?
So as Microsoft is consistently advancing the functionality that relies within Dynamics 365, they are now offering two major updates annually. The first being in the spring, which will release into your production environments in April, and the second in the fall being in October. This is going to be in addition to the minor updates and bug fixes that will enhance your performance throughout the year.
Okay, so what do I need to do as a customer?
Certainly. There's two things. So first is to be aware of the milestones and to be able to set a cadence internally and to prepare for this continuous release cycle. So in the example of spring of 2020, Microsoft released documentation indicating what functionality will release, and that was the end of January. Early February, the functionality was available in preview, which means that you could be able to preview this functionality in your sandbox environment, be able to test it against your current customizations and your business processes to be able to identify how you can leverage this functionality. And then preparing for the general rollout, which would be early April in this situation. But in the light of COVID-19, Microsoft has given an extension to May 1st, which is what we're preparing for now. The second thing to consider is to be able to look at the tasks that I need to do internally. As I mentioned, be able to preview this functionality in your sandbox environment. So if you don't already have one created, to be able to deploy a non-production instance, be able to copy your production environment into that non-production environment, so you can be able to do that testing, to be able to run user scripts, or to be able to run a day in the life scenario of your users. And as I had mentioned, be able to start planning for user adoption of these changes and be able to set up internal training programs to help people leverage this functionality.
Awesome, great. Well, that's great information. Thanks, Deborah.
My pleasure.
There's another new word kind of being put out there as well for customers who are on the older version of D365, and we've got new clients as well. It's this new unified interface. What is it?
Yes, it has. It's the buzz for quite a while now, and it's caused a little bit of confusion to our existing customers. So I'm so glad we're chatting about it today. So the unified interface is exactly in the naming convention, right? It's to provide a unified experience of the forms and the processes that you have within your Dynamics environment across all devices. So if I see it within on my browser, I can be able to see it within the Dynamics 365 app for mobile devices, being my cell phone or my Android or a tablet, so that it's unified across all applications. And in doing this, they've created a really nice user experience that is much more modern, clean, and just an easier way to be able to function and have visibility into the information. It's a really great interface.
Awesome, okay. And we've got an important date coming up, December 2020. What's that about?
Certainly. So Microsoft released this back last year, identifying the new user interface, unified interface, sorry, and to be able to allow organizations to be able to, exactly as we had mentioned a moment ago, to be able to preview the new interface, be able to understand how it relates and how it interacts with their current customizations, and gives them ample time to create training programs and a user adoption program internally to help with the transition to the interface. So Microsoft has extended the transition date or the timeline to being able to leverage the unified interface to December of 2020 this year.
So how do I know if I'm already using it or not?
Certainly. Even the images that you have shared here today, the top image shows the applications as a drop down. The sitemap drops from the top of the screen down. You can be able to see the applications that the user is licensed to use, as well as all of the different entities that drops in a horizontal manner down. The second image that you've shown here shows the sitemap on the left-hand side of the screen, and it doesn't fade away unless you need to create more of an open space for the user. So there's easy accessibility to the entities, as well as you can be able to see in the second image that it's such a much of a cleaner experience to be able to access the information and ease of visibility to that information.
You're right, Deborah. It's really easy to see the top image is the older interface and the bottom image is the new unified interface. So pretty easy for our customers to see which version they're on. So having said that, if I was on that older version, what do I need to do now?
Certainly. So there might be two perspectives that you're looking at. You may have already been contacted by Microsoft. There is a early adoption that Microsoft is trying to contact organizations and encourage the transition to the unified interface, in which you may have already received one. Or secondly, you just might want to start planning internally for this transition and put the next steps in place. So the same steps that I identified earlier is to be able to create a non-production environment or a sandbox environment, copy over your production environment so you can see all of your current business processes and how you have the environment set up, and then test it. Do a day in the life scenario of your users and be able to learn how they can access their information through the new unified interface and the new placements of all of the entities.
Awesome. Okay. And you've created some packages that we can share with our customers to have them be able to test out both the unified interface and all of the continuous updates. Is that correct?
Correct. We have been working with our clients for a few months now, helping with the transition, both for a wave release and for the unified interface. And we found it hugely advantageous for our clients to be able to have a kind of a coaching session with a consultant that knows their environment. And we've been doing a 2-hour engagement in which we can help them create that sandbox environment, show them how to be able to copy over their production, walk them through this step so that they become comfortable, because again, this is going to be something that will happen twice a year going forward. And this was also a great way for us to be able to coach and give some best practices to the administrators to help prepare internally and for user adoption.
Awesome. Great. Well, that's super exciting. Thank you so much, Deborah. And we look forward to helping all our customers move on over to that unified interface and apply that wave update.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's been a pleasure.